Welcome to Kenpo University. My name is Alan Babinick, and I'm your instructor. I want you to become the best martial artist in your school. I want to show you how to hit harder, hit faster, and move smarter. So most martial artists just know how to spar or do a self-defense technique, but a real martial artist knows the why behind every move they make. There's more to a self-defense technique than just block, kick, chop. And Kenpo University is designed to help you think about the whys and understand your motion through principles and rules. So if you ask, like, how come sometimes I step forward and sometimes I step backwards when I'm blocking or doing a technique? Or why does the kick have to go to the knee? Can I kick him in the thigh? Can I kick him in the stomach? Will I get the same result? One more. Why does the chop go down instead of sideways? If you know this, you'll be the smartest martial artist when you learn the rules of motion and how they apply to all your self-defense techniques. Do you have one of those techniques where it just feels off? Or you say, my training partner doesn't seem to move the right way? Well, if you learn the rules and principles of motion, it's going to help you figure out the answer to these problems and much, much more. And how about fighting? The person that wins the fight is the one who's the most prepared. Everyone knows one or two feigning or baiting tricks, but what if you knew the reason why they worked and how to design your own? How good of a fighter would you be if you knew how to open and close different lines of attack or defense? And if you close off a line of attack, now your opponent can't use that, and you could use a pre-planned strategy that's going to give you the three most likely things that are left. It's going to look like super skill to everybody else in the studio, but you just planned it out ahead of time. You will be the most prepared, and you'll win the fight. So I never used to feel like I was getting the answers to all my questions about why things work. So I want to take you on a journey of how I discovered the answers, and I want to tell you my story about how it all came about. So I started in Taekwondo when I was in my early teens, and I stuck with it for about 3 years. My class was all different ranks, from yellow down on this side all the way up to 4th and 5th degree black on that side. One day, I looked up and I saw what all those really high-ranking belts were doing, and honestly, it didn't look that much different than what I was doing. A little bit fancier maybe, but generally the same. And I knew there was something missing for me. I always liked doing the tournaments and sparring. I always liked the self-defense techniques, but it just didn't seem like point sparring or only doing a punch after the other guy tells you he's ready was going to work for me in the real world. So I started looking around. I started talking to people. Boy, was I in for a shock. My buddy Jim took me up to a Kempo school. In my first lesson, the instructor had me standing in a horse stance, and he wanted me to do inward-outward blocks, just back and forth, just like this. We never did anything like that in Taekwondo, and I had a hard time doing it. So it's just a series of inward-outward blocks. It was hard to do. It was blowing my mind. I'm like, why can't I do this? And I have to tell you, it's sad when you find out that you're at a McDojo and all you have to do is pay your money and you get your belt. I was a little disheartened, to say the least, and I didn't have a whole bunch of faith in my instructors. So I thought, man, what an idiot am I that I can't do this block real easy, and I felt like quitting. And I could have stopped right there and said, you know what? I got skills. I'm a black belt. I don't need this stuff. Then I remembered, I was here for a reason. You know, maybe this is what was missing. Maybe this is what I needed to learn. So, signed up, quit Taekwondo when my contract was over. And as a side note, I did both styles for a little while. Word to the wise, don't do that. Very confusing. And it's a little scary starting over. So, started my Kempo training. Turns out, I did have some skills. We flew through the material, and the katas were still, whatever. The sparring didn't change a whole lot when I went to that school, and it was just learn 12 techniques, test, and then repeat. Learn 12 techniques, test. Not a whole lot of explanations. So, got my black belt pretty quick because it was private classes, and you could test as soon as you knew the material. I was one of those guys that I would always go home, practice, and I would get it right. Then I got offered a school. for a bunch of money, of course. But at the time, I was a bowling alley mechanic, and compared to everybody in my family, I was making pretty good money. But boy, the pitch this guy gave me convinced me to open up a school. So, bought a school, and I'm teaching, everything's going okay, but the students are asking me questions, and it's hard for me to answer them because when I learned, it was just learn 12 techniques, test. Learn 12 techniques, test. There weren't a lot of explanations, unfortunately. So I asked my instructor. Turns out he couldn't help me either because he didn't know. I do a little bit of research. I found out this guy's just from a different line of Kempo. He picked up the Ed Parker manual, and he's just teaching from what he read. Not again. I have to switch. I was the owner of a school. I had to keep teaching, and I felt a responsibility to all my students to teach the best I could. So I did some more research. I bought some VCR tapes. Yep, that long ago. And I was trying to make sense of everything. And experience was making me better. You know, if something went wrong, I had to stop, think about it. And it just made me a better instructor, really. So I ended up cutting all my ties with that guy. And I started bringing in other people from all kinds of different martial arts, trying to find something, anything, really, that was going to give me an aha moment. And I was just kind of out there drifting. I didn't have a whole lot of guidance. I was still training hard, and I brought in one of the big guns in the Kempo world to do a seminar at my school, and I tested for my 3rd degree black, and there was a guy named Joe Doyle from Mentor, Ohio in the audience, and he was watching, and you know, I don't know what he thought, but he was probably saying, this guy needs to see Mr. Planis. So Mr. Doyle was bringing in Mr. Planis at the time, and he kept inviting me to seminars, and I got to tell you, every time I meet one of these big guns in the Kempo world, I'm like, how am I really going to stack up? Or, like, what's this guy really going to do that's different? And all I can tell you is, oh my God, Mr. Planis is the real deal. And I have to say, hey, Joe, I'm forever in your debt for introducing me to Mr. Planis and working with me over all these years, okay? So, but the first seminar I went to at Joe's school in Mentor, Ohio, Mr. Planis made a statement, and he said, don't do something because I said to. Do it based on the rules and principles of motion. Well, I'm turning into Scooby-Doo going, what? What are the rules and principles of motion? Not again. I have to switch. So after discussion with Mr. Doyle, time to start over again. And I have to tell you, it's not that fun because you have to prove yourself to everybody again and again. But I have to say, it was the best decision of my life. I can't express how much I've learned under Mr. Planis. And in Taekwondo, I knew the katas had patterns, a couple of basic patterns, but in Kempo, it's amazing how they put it together. Did you know that you can't leave one pattern until you've finished another pattern? And there's dictionary katas, there's encyclopedia katas, and all the techniques are put next to each other in the katas because they have something in common. And the katas go in order of danger. I mean, the information is amazing. And as far as fighting goes, it's totally different. You're supposed to use your self-defense techniques when you fight. And if you put your hands up in a certain way, it kind of closes lines, opens lines, and it just makes it so much easier to fight when you know what the other guy's going to do. So, that's my story. And all of this brings us to Kenpo University, advanced studies for the dedicated student. I designed Kenpo University to help you bypass all the obstacles that I ran into. And I want to help you jumpstart the next phase of your martial arts career. I'm going to teach you the rules and principles of motion. You're going to be able to self-correct or figure out why a move feels wrong. And any style can use this information. I'm a Parker Planis Kenpo guy, but motion is motion. It doesn't matter what style you do. We all have a lot more in common than you think. And Kenpo University will help you understand more about any style that you take. So I want you to get started today. It's free, no risk membership. You have to begin your journey with just a click below. So what I want you to do is I want you to sign up. There's no strings attached. If you don't feel like you've learned anything, you can quit anytime you want to. And we'll take you off our student roster, so there's no risk, okay? I've been teaching now for over 30 years, and it's been a long time since I started my karate studio in 1989, and I've come a long way since then. And I think I've been working with Mr. Plans for about 15 years now, and I feel like I have a responsibility to give back to the community. And I want to use Kenpo University to help you in your path no matter what style you're in. So every style can benefit by joining. The rules and principles apply to motion, any motion. Whether you learn about bracing angles, establishing a base, your self-defense techniques, how to spar better, you're just going to gain a deeper understanding of your katas and what they're trying to show you. So right now, I want you to start your free, no-risk membership. Go below, click, join up today, and I know you're going to love it, okay? So, and remember, never do anything because I tell you to. Do it because of the rules and principles of motion. So thank you very much. I'm Al Babinick from Kenpo University. And remember, I want you to jump on this right now, or every day you're late, you're missing out. So do it now. Go below, click the button.